Imagine reading a creepy internet story about secret labs, vanished test subjects, and governments erasing evidence, then realizing it is not fiction but real history. That is what happens when you start digging into some of the strangest Soviet projects and disasters. Behind the Iron Curtain, experiments with nuclear power, psychology, and even the human body sometimes cross the line between science and horror, leaving scars that are still visible today. In this video, we are going to look at real Soviet cases that sound like modern creepypastas. Unexplained deaths in the snow, impossible explosions, and research that feels more like a horror script than a government program. Segment 1: The Dyatlov Pass. A frozen nightmare. In 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out into the Ural Mountains and never came back alive. When rescuers finally found their camp at Dyatlov Pass, the scene looked like something from a horror movie. The tent cut open from the inside, footprints leading into the snow with almost no clothes, and bodies scattered in the forest and ravine. Some had fractured skulls and broken ribs but almost no external wounds, as if the force came from inside their bodies. One woman was missing her tongue, eyes, and parts of her face. The official Soviet conclusion spoke vaguely of a compelling natural force, but locked the files and banned access to the area for years. That vacuum of information gave birth to every theory possible: secret weapons tests, infrasound panic, avalanche, military cover-up, and even paranormal interference. To this day, Dyatlov Pass feels like a real-world creepypasta. A perfect mystery with too many clues and no final answer. Segment 2: The KYSHTYM Disaster. A nuclear catastrophe erased. Long before Chernobyl, in 1957, a massive nuclear accident struck a secret facility near the town of KYSHTYM in the Ural region. A tank with highly radioactive waste exploded with the force of a small bomb, sending a lethal cloud over hundreds of kilometers of villages and farmland. The Soviet state did everything possible to hide it. Entire villages were quietly evacuated, sometimes in the middle of the night, and ordered never to speak of what they had seen. Maps were altered, and the most contaminated zones simply disappeared from public records. People who stayed developed cancers and strange illnesses without ever being told why. Later, Western scientists had to reconstruct the disaster just from deformities in plants, animals, and scattered testimonies, like piecing together a lost horror story from burned pages. Segment 3: Chernobyl. When the cover-up failed, the Chernobyl explosion in 1986 is well known today, but for days the Soviet government tried to pretend almost nothing had happened. Warnings from workers about safety problems had been ignored for years. After the reactor blew, locals watched blue flames and glowing beams of light shoot into the sky, unaware they were staring directly at intense radiation. Officials delayed evacuations and downplayed the danger, even as radiation alarms went off in other countries and forced them to admit the truth. That mix of invisible danger, denial, and ghost city aftermath turned Chernobyl into one of the most powerful real horror stories of the 20th century. The abandoned apartments, frozen schoolrooms, and decaying amusement park in Pripyat look like a perfectly staged post-apocalyptic set, except that everything there was once real: people's lives. Segment 4: Secret mind experiments and psychic research. While the Soviet Union mocked superstition in public, some branches of the state quietly funded research into telepathy, remote viewing, and psychic influence, often as a response to rumors that Western intelligence agencies were doing the same. Declassified documents and memoirs describe tests where subjects tried to transmit images over long distances, influence objects with bioenergy, or read sealed information. Military and security services watched closely, hoping for any advantage. Most of these experiments produced little solid evidence and were eventually dropped, but the idea that soldiers and scientists were secretly trying to weaponize the human mind feels like something straight out of an ARG or horror game. Segment 5: Hidden societies and occult circles. Despite official atheism, esoteric and occult groups survived underground. Intellectuals in big cities gathered in private apartments to study astrology, theosophy, and magical traditions, sharing banned books and hand-copied texts. Joining such a circle could be dangerous. Being labeled mystic or sectarian could destroy a career, but for some, the promise of hidden knowledge was worth the risk. Historians have found evidence that certain artists and writers encoded esoteric symbols into their work, creating a secret visual language under the nose of the censors. This mix of surveillance, fear, and forbidden ritual gives these groups the same energy as modern secret society creepypastas, except this time the conspiracy was real people in real rooms, hoping the KGB never knocked on their door. Segment 6 Why these stories feel like creepypasta. These cases share key ingredients with the scariest stories on the internet today. A powerful authority determined to hide the truth. Isolated locations, frozen mountains, sealed nuclear cities, underground labs. Fragmented evidence. A few photos, damaged reports, and survivor memories. Because the full truth was often buried or distorted, the gaps get filled with imagination. Rumors become legends, and legends become true horror content that spreads online. What makes the Soviet version unique is that so much of it really did happen. The radiation was real, the bodies were real, and the files were locked away on purpose. Outgrowth Soviet Union may be gone, but its experiments, accidents, and cover-ups still haunt the present. They live on in declassified archives, in scarred landscapes, and in the stories of survivors who finally decided to speak. When you hear a new creepy story about a secret lab or a vanished expedition, remember. Somewhere in the old USSR, there is probably a real case that is even stranger. If you want more dark history from behind the Iron Curtain, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and tell in the comments which Soviet mystery should be uncovered next.